It took only one practice for this Dallas Cowboy rookie to impress. We'll tell you who it is next.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Welcome back. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. Joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. And Landon, the Cowboys had their first official training camp practice on Tuesday. We've got a bunch of news and notes and nuggets that we're going to get through, but I thought we should start with this. It took only one practice for Tyler Booker to already start winning over the fans of the Dallas Cowboys. Little timeline. Joseph Hoyt, our guy from the Dallas Morning News, he was out to practice 90 minutes before it started. Tyler Booker already on the field working. And then as the players were running onto the field for practice, Tyler Booker looked so excited. He was like a little kid running onto the field. And then afterwards, staying after practice, working with Tyler Smith, just kind of checking every box that you would want to see from your first round pick.
Yeah, I mean, just and very much kind of what we heard that this guy was like, right? That he's going to get out there. He's going to be the guy who's going to burn the candle at both ends. He's going to work really hard, and he was going to set a good example on how to be a leader. And you know, as a rookie, to kind of go out there and be the first man out and the last guy off the field, that kind of shows you exactly what kind of guy we got with Tyler Booker. So that's super exciting.
I would comment more on what happened on the field, but the problem is it's really hard for a powerful guard in a supposed to be a non-contact practice with no pads on to have a big impact. But I do want to point out he's already starting at right guard. So there's none of this nonsense of like, hey, making him earn this spot. We're going to play the veterans over him. It feels like that old regime is gone and they're just going to play the guys that they know are going to play.
Yeah, and I think it also is just a continuation on a kind of another theme that we've talked about, which is the coaches kind of following through with the things that they're talking about, right? I think the other big, huge takeaway I took from the offensive side of the ball, from what we saw from the Cowboys training camp live videos and the releases, is that they did a lot of stuff, a lot of play action. They had clearly today they did like an 11-on-11 play action and passing session, right? And every single snap that I saw was taken under center. There was motion, there was pre-snap and you know, on the snap motion. So all the kind of elements of wanting to be a tougher football team, wanting to, you know, work on the physicality. Obviously there's no pads yet, but they're out there working on run game stuff. They're putting the quarterback under center. To me, that shows a commitment to being a team that is going to, you know, be more efficient running the football and is putting their money where their mouth is in regards to that.
All right, so let's talk about the run game a little bit. You mentioned all under center, which is great. We've been saying this for a long time. It's really hard to have an effective run game if you're just at a shotgun all the time, just because of the angles and the running backs getting momentum. We should mention that Javante Williams and Miles Sanders were the top two running backs to start practice. That's not a complete surprise, right? But it seemed like Javante was kind of the guy that was getting the most burn with the ones.
Yeah, it did seem like you saw more of him getting the snaps with the ones, and Sanders was being kind of portioned in a little bit as they went. So I don't know if that actually, again, we're kind of just, you know, noting it. I don't know if this is the horse race quite yet, but it's something to at least consider where we're starting, and we'll see how that all kind of shifts around. I imagine that there may not even be a pecking order necessarily. They're just putting the veteran guys in there. And as is tradition, and then they're going to kind of see how everyone reacts to this. But I imagine that we'll see a little bit of everybody working with the first teams eventually. But those are the guys who are starting out first.
And we should mention there's just a difference between Tyler Booker, 12th overall pick at guard, starting with the first team,
Yeah.
compared to like Jaden Blue, who was a 5th round pick at running back. Blue worked with the second team. We also saw Deuce Vaughn working with the second team. Vaughn had a couple of really nice runs.
Mhm.
And I told myself as I was watching some of the videos, like, hey, I'm not going to get sucked into this year. I'm not doing it. But he did look pretty good.
Yeah, he did. He looked. He was moving well, and you need that kind of thing. And look, if Vaughn is going to work in the NFL, I mean, it's got to be with his former coach running the system that is probably best suited for his kind of play. This is his best opportunity to try to do something. So, and I thought Blue looked good too. I mean, they just kind of catching a dump off pass a couple different times, and being athletic. So. Which is, about like what we talked about. Like we kind of compared him to a Lance Dunbar guy. And if you could get him in that kind of role, that would be valuable. So you're already seeing him taking those dump off passes and turning them into, a little bit bigger gains, taking a draw play and squirting up the middle and getting 10 or 15 yards. So we'll see once pads come on, if those still play like that, if that's how that goes. But as for right now, it still looks good.
Yeah, so again, Javante, Miles Sanders at the top of the depth chart. You do have Blue and Deuce Vaughn with the second team. I did see Phil Maffa in there a little bit, kind of rotating in. But there was another, I almost said running back, another player getting carries, a traditional running back carries that we should mention, and that's KaVontae Turpin. He got a carry with Dak Prescott under center. Turpin was in the backfield, lined up as a running back. And if we were playing pads, or we had pads on and this was a real game, it would have been a touchdown. Like, he beat everybody to the corner. I do wonder if we could see more of KaVontae Turpin in that type of role this year.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like from what we're hearing that, and this kind of came out today on social media, that a lot of what happened last year with KaVontae Turpin taking snaps from the running back position was Schottenheimer's thought process, right? Was Schottenheimer kind of inserting some of his elements into that offense. So it sounds like that's definitely going to be the case a little bit this year. I mean, he already got 2 carries, like I saw in this practice. So they're not doing that just to see if he can do it. He's already done it in a regular season game. They're doing it to get him ready to do it some more in the regular season. So I think we talked about it last year. I mean, what was the carry count that he had? I bet he doubles whatever. Yeah, so I bet he doubles it easily, because I think that they'll try it more. And they had a lot of success whenever he got the ball from the running back position last year.
Yeah, and I don't know how many are going to be as a running back, or they're going to be little jet sweeps or reverses, however, but I do expect that total to go up. I was actually writing about him today, and I went back and looked. It's funny, Tavon Austin was with the Rams early in his career when Brian Schottenheimer was the offensive coordinator. And Tavon would get, I think he had 52 carries the last year Schotty was the offensive coordinator there. And again, that's not a ton. That's never going to be your featured back. But if you're talking about 2 or 3 carries a game just to try to get some more explosive plays in your run game, I think KaVontae Turpin could potentially handle that kind of workload.
Yeah, and it's just another way to get dangerous ball carriers the ball, right? Yeah. And again, another thing for the defense to have to account for week to week. So it was good to see that wrinkle come back. And again, also the kind of schematic wrinkles that were talked about early on in the Schottenheimer press conference, a little bit more under center, some condensed stuff, some motion. It was good to see kind of a little bit of all of that in this practice. Early signs are good in that regard.
And I think with the Cowboys having, an established top 3 at receiver, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jalen Tolbert, it's going to be hard for him to get on the field as a traditional receiver, but you want to make sure that he's part of your offense, because he can provide those explosive plays. He had over 500 yards on offense last year. You don't want to completely remove him from your offense, but you're not necessarily making him a focal point either. I think, let's say 4 touches a game, maybe it's 2 receptions, 2 carries, seems very feasible for KaVontae Turpin.
Yeah, absolutely. And it feels like he's a guy who, with that kind of speed, he can protect himself. He can run out of bounds, so he can avoid big hits. Yep. I think as long as he's doing that, being safe about it and just using his speed, and then as soon as it starts to get hairy, maybe getting down so you don't take a huge hit because you are undersized. Yeah. I think that makes some sense. And today's NFL, where things can get spread out, there's opportunities for guys like that to kind of squirt through the middle and take advantage of angles. And potentially create big plays where you don't really have anybody else on this team that has that kind of athleticism and speed combination.
All right, let's talk about some other news and notes that we got from the Cowboys' first practice, including Mazi Smith's weight, which has been a topic now for 3 years. We'll give you the latest update next. This episode is brought to you by Monarch Money. Do you ever wish managing your money felt easier? With Monarch Money, it can. Whether you're growing your savings or planning a big purchase, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money is more than just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all of your accounts, all of your investments, and your spending in one place. So, in addition to managing your money, you're also building your wealth. I like how Monarch Money has allowed me to cut back on some of the subscriptions I've had. Didn't need as many as I was subscribing to. Saving, $20, $30, $40 every single month has been really nice for the family. It adds up over time. So take control over your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONNFL for half off your first year. This episode is brought to you by Rougier. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them, but if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougier Ready. Rougier Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougier's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes, and effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougier might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. So head over to Rougier.com/LockedOnNFL and use code LockedOnNFL to get 15% off today. That is RUGIET.com/LockedOnNFL and use promo code LockedOnNFL for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rougier website for full safety information. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen every single day. We are discussing all of the latest news and rumblings coming out of Dallas Cowboys training camp. And we got to talk about Mazi Smith's weight. According to Brian Schottenheimer, he's at 300 pounds-ish, I think is what Schottenheimer said. They said he's lean and he's in good shape, but I don't think this is great news.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly, it's remaining to see. I want to see how the performance is, but as a just kind of a headline, it's not great news. I mean, because we wanted to see him get more weight. I think he probably was somewhere in the range of like 310 or 315 last year, maybe.
Yeah.
And we kind of wanted to see him back up at 320 and 330. And so I think, Eberflus is kind of, as we said, kind of more going back to a penetrating, one gap defense. So I do understand the need for wanting your one technique to get some penetration and wanting to take advantage of that. However, I just feel like you needed more power out of the player, and you may be going the wrong direction. Now, having said that, I will also play devil's advocate here. I do think that there is a very good chance, not only because of experience, but because of the manner in which he got to 300 pounds, I do think that you will see, hopefully, a better tuned athlete at 300 pounds this year than you did in his rookie season. Asking him to come off of, all that weight after playing at 320 plus at Michigan, I just have a hard time believing that losing all that weight was done in a way that also was, while maintaining a high level of strength. I think he didn't have to go as far to go. I think he probably understood what he was doing a lot better and was in a professional system and not dealing with an off-season surgery and all that stuff. So there's a chance that this 300 pounds on Mazi is a very different looking 300 pounds on Mazi than it was 2 years ago. However, and look, he did have a sack in one of those in one of these practice reps. So, I let's hold out on some judgment. But yes, overall, as before, we see anything, it was kind of discouraging news just because of all the struggles that we've seen so far.
Yeah, and I'm sure the Cowboys asked Mazi Smith to cut weight back because in this scheme, they're going to want their defensive tackles to be more up the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mazi, problem with Mazi is his kind of superpower coming out of Michigan. What he was this strong nose tackle that we thought was going to be able to hold up against double teams, and that's going to allow Osa Odighizuwa to carve up one-on-ones. There might not be that type of role on this defense. So they're trying to fit him in the best way they can. Unfortunately, I just don't think that's a great fit for Mazi himself. However, I do want to say we've seen Matt Eberflus in the past take some guys that I never would have thought could be good one techniques and make them good one techniques. Remember our guy, Terrell McLean, who was like 6'2", 300 pounds, it was a good athlete, but not a great athlete. And he turned him into one of the more important parts of the Cowboys defense that year. Maybe that's what they're hoping here with Mazi Smith.
Yeah, and look, I mean, these guys are not likely to be just playing like head up on the center like a true nose tech. I mean, it's more of a one technique. I think that position requires you to kind of just destroy the center from an angle, and if you can accomplish that with that strength that he has, I mean, that's the thing that really is important to me. Is the weight is one thing or another. Ultimately, what I want to see is a guy playing with power. If he continues to play with power at 300 pounds, similar or on a track of where he was last year, then I think this can be okay. But otherwise, I worry about what does this ultimately mean for that, because losing weight traditionally doesn't mean that you've gained power.
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. We should talk about some of the other defensive tackles.
Yeah.
Solomon Thomas was getting work as the other defensive tackle opposite of Osa Odighizuwa, which is very interesting. You also saw Perion Winfrey. That's the guy the Cowboys signed this offseason from the UFL. He was a big-time player at Oklahoma, was a fourth-round pick by the Browns. He was actually working with the ones a little bit as well, which was surprising. He's a big-time talent. He's another one of these like sub 300-pound defensive tackles that's better as like a up the field guy. I think all of this just tells us like they're probably going to be small at defensive tackle again this year.
Yeah, I mean, I just think that we just haven't learned anything from this yet. That's what I think we've learned. I thought the Mazi thing was just so surprising, right? That because it feels like that was obviously their plan, right? So what is the plan, overall at nose tackle? It really kind of throws you to a loop. Are they planning on relying heavily on Jay Toye to come in here and play that role? Are they planning on signing someone off the street to come in? Because the truth of the matter is that if they are going to be doing a lot of penetrating, they'll still probably need another big body nose tackle.
Probably.
So I think the question now becomes, like, who is the guy that potentially would be playing those 10 to 15 snaps a game in the middle? So I think that, you can certainly cobble together a good defensive tackle rotation with, moving some of these guys around, especially now that you've got Mazi going in a couple different spots. But when it's time to kind of really get heavy and stop the run, like goal line, who are your goal line?
Push. Like, who are the guys even out on the field? Like they don't have enough big bodies right now.
Yeah. And I think if they're planning on playing, stronger in the gaps and just being more gap sound while still being a one gap penetrating team, I think that's one thing. Maybe they're trying to like steal back a gap or something like that. That's what some defenses will do. But if they aren't, how are they planning on kind of solving the math and the run game inside to keep their defensive tackles, to keep their linebackers clean from, getting it to offensive linemen to the second level?
No idea. We'll see. They've got to sign somebody else. They've got to trade for somebody, and I'm sure they will as we get to August. 335-pound defensive tackles do not want to be practicing in August, let alone July. So we'll see.
Still time.
Still time. All right, let's talk about some other news and notes that we saw from Cowboys camp on day one. We will get to that next. This episode is presented by Yahoo Fantasy. Fantasy football is back. Fire up the group chat and get your draft board ready and buckle up for a season filled with breakouts, busts, and all of the overreactions that we live for. It's all going down on Yahoo Fantasy. This year, I am playing on Yahoo Fantasy, and you should too, whether you're a first timer or a veteran making your millionth league. I love Yahoo Fantasy. It's the only fantasy app place that I play. It's the best out there. And to celebrate 28 years of fantasy greatness, Yahoo Fantasy is dropping 28 big new features over 28 days, giving you more ways to play, more ways to draft, and more ways to win. And it all begins on August 4th. So stay tuned and get started by creating or joining a fantasy football league at yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. That's yahoofantasy.com/LockedOnNFL. And let's make this fantasy season the best one yet. Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast. We'd like to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We want to let you know about the Locked On NFL Top 100. It's out, voted on by the NFL host of the Locked On Podcast Network. Our Top 100 was formed by experts that cover these teams and players every single day. Find the full list on Locked On Sports today or on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't miss where all of your favorite Cowboy players are ranked. All right, Landon, let's talk about some other news and notes from camp. What do you got?
Well, first of all, I think it was just great to see. I mean, first of all, I'm so happy that we're getting to talk about football. Like, whether it's still football in shorts, but I mean, goodness gracious, like just to be talking about what we're seeing, guys performing, I'm happy about that. So it was great to see Pickens out there. It was great to see him interacting with CD. Again, we don't really want to get too much into individual performance stuff at this point because it's obviously early days. They're still doing kind of an install thing. They're still kind of feeling this situation out, and they're not in pads. So we're just kind of want to generally talk about like where people are lining up, maybe the early pecking order, and how folks are kind of physically moving around. It was just great to see CD and Pickens clearly forming an early bond. They came out of the locker room together. It was kind of an up and down day a little bit with Dak and Pickens. I saw that there was a miscommunication between the two of them in an 11-11 where it looks like Dak at least, banged his chest that he felt like he threw the wrong route. But other than that, there was also another big catch we saw.
Not the one on ESPN that we saw earlier.
No, that was, man.
In case you missed it, ESPN aired a highlight from 2 years ago of Cowboys camp. That's why we're making fun of it. But go ahead.
They confused number 3 Brandon Cooks, 2022 or 2023 player, from number 3 George Pickens, a 2025 player. Which it's not like there's 5 inches between those. That's being nice. Those two difference. Yeah, to be very kind. So that was really great to see kind of that in action. We saw a little bit of the tight ends getting used in an interesting way. We saw Schoonmaker out in the flat catching like almost a screen and getting upfield. And I got to tell you, he looked a little bit more spry, a little bit more, has a little bit more juice than I kind of remembered, because I feel like to me, that's always been Ferguson's superpower, right? Is that like you're able to kind of get the ball out to him in the flat, and once he gets the ball, he really is springy up the field once it's time to get north-south. So it was good to see Schoonmaker doing that. And last thing before I let you get some word in edgewise, speaking of edges, Sam Williams, man, I just like I love that the first day that this dude comes back into practice, he gets thrown out of practice for being too physical. I mean, that's, to me, this team needs that kind of guy. This defense needs that guy. And I love, listen, he's a knucklehead. With that kind of stuff, he can't get too knuckleheaded in these games. He's had a problem with that before. But man, I love his passion. I love his athleticism, and he's already back and working with no restrictions. It looked like, or at least, very few restrictions. fantastic to see. Love Sam Williams. Can't wait to see what he does this year.
Yeah, honestly, that's the big thing. Like your day one of practice and Sam Williams is out there. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not always a given for a player coming back from a torn ACL, but the fact that he is out there shows you just how hard he worked to get there. And it feels like the Cowboys are really going to be relying on him because he is somebody that can give you some more juice on the edge, but he also has the size to maybe help you in the run game. I know that hasn't always been his strength, and you're hoping maybe he gets better at that as he progresses and develops. But man, if you had a healthy Sam Williams and you can rotate him in with Micah Parsons and Dante Fowler and Marshawn Nealon, who also had a pick six, we should mention.
That's
now
right.
you've got some real defensive end depth.
And Fowler, who had a tackle for a loss during one of these runs. So, I think, I just want to kind of go back to something you said about Sam real quick. Is he, we talked about there's been maturity issues with him obviously he had the issue with his car. There's just, the penalties and the on-field and kind of off-field maturity questions. Nothing serious, just like kind of knucklehead and stuff, like we said. A lot of credit goes to Sam Williams for the recovery he was able to make from an ACL injury. It was a tough point. I understand it's a contract year for him, but that doesn't always mean that guys are going to work hard. And it's clear that Sam Williams worked extremely hard this offseason. It's clear that he worked extremely hard the previous season to kind of change his body a little bit. So kudos to Sam Williams. I'm excited to see all these defensive ends.
Last thing, I cannot wait for the preseason to see Joe Milton throw the ball like 80 yards. And it's going to happen. I'm telling you, he's going to try to rip one. He's going to be the gift that keeps on giving during Cowboys camp. We're going to get a viral Joe Milton moment almost every single day, and I cannot wait. All right. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. All right, that is it for today's show. We want to thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every single day. Make sure you check out the channel on YouTube. Download the podcast wherever you get your podcasts. We are free and available on all platforms. Follow Landon on Twitter at McCoolBCB. I'm at Marcus_Mosher, and we will see you right back here tomorrow.